Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists, and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey everybody, it's Leah Riley here, looking good tonight.
Hello, it's Megan.
Hi there, it's Amy.
I think we look nice.
Well, I was just, for those of you listening, you're not going to get the full effect if you watch. I just pulled a pencil out of my hair. It's one of the days that I don't know. Do you like to, I like to do a hairstyle that usually includes some sort of writing instrument tucked into my hair. Is this,
I have
My
never.
hair's too short.
Yeah, mine's too short too.
Okay, well, I tend to do writing instruments. We'll do a little fancy up.
I like it. Oh, beautiful.
Studio
Beautiful.
54 updo, spiky back. I went to actually here, I'm going to surprise you with this. I went to a wedding this weekend. It was my youngest sister's wedding, and she paid people to do hair. And I was in the wedding, so I had my hair did. I have not had my hair styled by like a person since prom 1997. So even when I got married, I just put my hair in a ponytail for my wedding. Like we were talking, like my sister was like, "Oh, I did your hair for the wedding." I'm like, "Yeah, you just put my hair in a ponytail and curled the end. Like that's all I did."
That's so
So
funny.
I like sat down there like, "Okay, so how do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't think you know like what you're working with here." I was like, you just are going to do whatever you want to do." And they're like, "Well, what do you want?" I'm like, "Oh, I have like you look at like my scraggly hair and you just do whatever it is that you're going to need to do in this world." And it was fascinating to see the tips and tricks that they have used. So, I mean, since I don't get my hair did, I didn't know like the things that they can do. And I ended up getting like a whole like cut off pantyhose, like rolled up and shoved at like the base of my hair. And then they like teased it out and like covered it. So I looked like I had like about 5 times as much hair as I normally do.
What?
And I was like, yeah, look at this. And so, yeah, it was interesting and fun. But then at the end, I was like, okay, I'm like so curious because I didn't have my glasses on. I wasn't looking. And I'm like, I have no idea what this is going to look like. I pretty much look like I did for prom 1997. Like it was like my hair was back in like some sort of thing. And then there were just 2 perfect little curls on like either side of my face. And I was like, oh, well, weird to see that style on me, but like, why not?
You looked beautiful. I
did
did.
too.
I loved
The suit was so
she has this like
hot.
it was like a black velvet suit, right?
I did. I am really
was so
happy with
hot.
the suit because I put off getting an outfit for like till my sister was sweating. I left it till the weekend before she got married, and she was like, "Do you have your bridesmaid dress? Do you have your bridesmaid dress?" I was like, "Nope, nope, nope." And then I was like, "Fuck! It's like the wedding's in 6 days. I gotta go get it." So I went to the mall, and I was like looking at dresses, and I was just like, "Man, like dresses kind of like they're not cheap." And then I'm like, what am I going to do with like, it was a black tie wedding. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't want to spend a lot of money on a dress. And then I'm like, I don't go to black tie functions. Like, I just am going to like, And then I saw this like black velvet suit and it was more than I wanted to pay. But I was also like, these are like wearing pajamas.
I feel like you could get more use out of that.
Yeah,
like
you could wear that again.
Yeah, because
So much more
it didn't come across to me. It was very fancy, but it
But
also didn't come
You could
across
wear
to
it
me
on a
as,
date night. You
You-
could wear it on
yes.
a date night and be fine.
oh my God, you could totally, or just wear the jacket with something else, or just wear the
Yes.
pants. It was like so functional, and I
Yes.
thought you looked so good.
Thank you. And so in the end, I was like, this is worth the money I'm spending on it because I feel like I'm going to wear this like multiple times. I'm not just going to have this like weird like outfit hanging in my closet. And the other fun thing, and then I'll let the outfits go and the wedding go, was my son wore the tux that my husband got married in. So
You know
he
that?
kept
That's
it all
amazing.
these years. So Nick's not a big guy. And I was surprised at like how loose it was on Jarrah because Nick is considerably shorter than Jarrah is. Jarrah's like 5'10", 5'11". Nick is 5'5". And
How did that work?
I don't know because when Nick put the suit on, like the tux on when we got married, it wasn't like he looked like he was like a child dressed in this outfit. But then Jarrah put it on and it wasn't like it looked like he was in like short pants or anything. It like fit him fine.
Yeah.
And I think they weigh about that like Jera's really lean and, whatever, like he weighs like 137 pounds. And Nick was a petite guy when we got married. But I don't understand how like the length and
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't make
it doesn't make any sense to me. Happened and it worked. And so he wore the whole outfit because we had gotten it because Nick's not a standard male size for this country. We found an Armani tux at a thrift store. And nobody had gotten it because I think, most dudes aren't 5'5", 130 pounds, and so it wasn't like like it was like they kind of just had it in the back. And then they were like, yeah, we'll give you like a super good deal on it because like we've had it for so long. And so, yeah, Nick kept it. But what was funny is when we got married, I was like, it was just like the tux and we had to get like the little tie and the little vest or, all the stuff that goes underneath it. And I was like, just get black. Just get black or white. Like, just go to the store and get black or white. Like, I don't give a shit. Just that. Like, nothing else. He came back with silver.
I knew
and
it.
I was like, what the? And it was a whole thing because I was like, literally one job.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't asking for a lot in this world. I was like, just keep it simple. And he was like, I was like, now you look like you're the DJ. Like, you came home and you look like you're the fucking DJ. Like, you're in like a shiny silver vest. You got a shiny, and it was a zip-on tie. And you could see the zip. And I could see the zip on Jera. It's a zip-on tie. I was like, you look like you were either a guitarist or... And I don't understand why you would do that. And it wasn't like I was like a bridezilla either. Like, he made it seem like I was the biggest bridezilla in the world. And he made two poor choices. I also had booked music. I booked like an acoustic guitar player to like walk down the aisle with. They called while I was at work and they were like, okay, we're just confirming like the acoustic guitar player. And he was like, actually, I think we should go with cello. And so he called back and I was like, I like a cello. I'm not going to diss on cello. I don't think because we were going to do guitar. And then afterwards during cocktail, this guy was going to play like Spanish guitar and like be on his way. I was like, just a nice, lively little whatever. I was like, you changed it to a cello dirge. I was like,
no.
So I had to call back and be like, whatever he said, no. And so that was the first time I was like, just don't. Like, this is a simple wedding. Like, I tried on 2 dresses to get married. The second dress, I was like, it fit, I'm good. Like, I really was not the bridezilla.
Oh man, that's so
And
funny.
so the only other thing he had to do was like black or white. He came home with a silver tux, guitar look. And I remember I stood there in the doorway being like, this is absurd. Like, yes, you have a zip-on tie. Like, help me understand.
I don't even understand what a zip-on tie is.
You take the tie, wrap it around, and then there's a zip, like a jacket, and you just zip it on so you don't have to tie your tie.
No, I've never heard of this
Stop
before.
it. I've never heard of that in my life.
You have an Armani tux that you found through the magic of the universe. My magic of the universe.
Oh my God.
Because I was like, if he needs to get a tux, the universe blesses us.
Yeah, it was.
And then he's like, and now let me get this.
Yeah.
And I was just standing there going, this is like, and we were going to Antarctica. We had no time. Like, basically, we were going to Antarctica on this trip and then coming back and getting married. I was like, there's no time. Like, you've come home with this. We are now stuck with this. Like, there's no redoing this. Like, you've done the thing.
And I go back and look at pictures of Jera now so I can see the zip-on tie. I'm like so excited.
I think it, like, I don't know. You have to really like kind of look on the side. But anyway, I was just like, ugh. And I remember my mom stood next to him. And my mom and him, she's not like his biggest stan. And she was like, but do you feel good in it? And he was like, uh-huh. And I was like,
oh, no.
I mean, here I am. I'm next year, 20 years married. I can still feel the rage I felt in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I knew what I was signing up for at this point. Like, I knew what I was buying. I knew the cow I was getting. And it was a contrary little cow.
With a zip-up tie.
Zip-up tie and a cello fetish.
Dirge. I can just hear the bong, bong. I dated a cellist in high school.
I think the cello's a super hot instrument. It's just like, I didn't want 3 hours of cello.
No, I don't want 3 hours. We had a string quartet.
At a wedding. Yeah. A string quartet. Like, it's just like, it's like, and again, please don't write me and say I'm dissing cello. I'm not.
No,
anyway.
There's a difference between like a wedding march and a dirge. I mean.
Yeah.
But do you know what this didn't lead to? It didn't lead
Yeah.
to a third act breakup at this point. I'm still
Not
hanging in.
yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. The keyword, the power of yet.
How many acts are there in your marriage?
The power of yet.
That's a
I
growth
love it.
mindset.
So we've been talking about doing this one for a while, and I feel like we kind of just kept like forgetting to put it on the schedule. But it's on the schedule today, and we are excited about it. So if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that we have often talked about our varying opinions on the third act breakup, whether in romance novels or in K-dramas. But we haven't dedicated a full episode to it or really broken down when we think it's done right versus when we don't. So, in case you don't know, the third act breakup is what the name says. The romantic couple breaks up in the third act of a romance novel or a K-drama, only to finally get together for good for a happily ever after in about like 50 pages or one episode. We actually have not talked about Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes in a while. That's like a throwback that we used to talk about all the time in the early days of the podcast. It's a popular romance writing guide on story structure. So in it, she explains that the third act breakup happens right after the characters let doubt creep in and they put their shields up against love. So shields up is like all caps because that's like a major beat. And then following the breakup is the dark night of the soul. So that's when the characters wallow in regret at their bad choices and stare out rainy windows while montages of happy times play in their minds. The third act breakup is very traditional in romance novels. It's funny, when I went to like research kind of a little bit for this, I found a very classic romance author who has a whole Substack where she is very viciously defending the need for a third act breakup. She was very passionate about it.
People get
And
very worked up on this topic.
yeah, especially romance authors who have been in the game for a long time. I think they really cling to the third act breakup, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying I think it's a very classic way to write romance novels, and the people who believe in a third act breakup really believe in the third act breakup.
And if I can go so far as to say, I'd say that like it gets shit on Book Talk, which is kind of like the new generations of romance readers. And so a lot of books will be, you'll see people like readers will be recommending things, and I'll see them because people like tag one of my books in, and it'll be like, this one doesn't have a third act breakup. Or people will be like, does it have a act breakup, as something they want to avoid. So I can also see some writers feeling defensive of it if like, you're seeing pushback over something that you find value into.
Yeah, and when I first started writing romance novels, I don't remember this being a topic of conversation. I don't remember the term third act breakup really being talked about at all. So that's why I do think it's more of like a new reader thing. But still, it's a classic way to create angst and also to make characters confront their inner conflicts in order to finally be open to real, true love. But is the third act breakup always necessary? Of course not. Just nothing much is necessary other than an HEA. So, yeah, we're going to get into all of that in today's episode. So, I think a lot of our discussion today will be derivative of this question, which is why I thought to ask it first. So, what do you think is the ultimate point of writing a third act breakup? And like, what reaction are you hoping to get from, the reader, the viewer in writing or showing a third act breakup?
It's kind of like the point where you need, like, if you're looking at how beats normally work in a romance, is you've been taking these two people on a journey, right? And so you've been taking people on a journey of, in the past we've talked about this more. We haven't gotten into this for a bit, so I'm going to just go over it really quickly. Is like the way that I've heard romance defined that's always resonated with me has been you're moving from kind of mask to identity. So you begin the drama with like some sort of a mask on, like some sort of protected shield, either that you don't want to be vulnerable with to someone else. And so it could be that you've like been brokenhearted in the past. It could be that you have family pressures. It could be you have self-worth issues. It could be like literal masks, like when we see like the King's Affection, where you're like pretending to be a man being the king. Like you can have all sorts of things that are like the thing that is like kind of like hiding you from like, it's protecting that little soft underbelly. And by the end of a successful, like well executed drama, you've moved to identity, which is like you're being seen for who you are by someone, good and bad, and all the things in between. And so Honestly, I think that act breakup is kind of often serves like two parts. One is you need to have something happen, because if it was just no conflict and people just like get together and they move through their stuff and they have long thought out deep conversations and then they end up in happiness, like it's not super compelling. So in a romance that doesn't have like a lot of external world conflict, like there's just needs to be something that happens, and so this could be like a thing that happens to bring you to a crisis point. But the thing is that it's all a tool to get to where we have to have this crisis point, which is this is where you grapple with the final piece of like, this mask that I've been wearing doesn't serve me anymore. It's not good for me to do this, and I need to try this new thing, which is being myself, like having being vulnerable and having this thing. So a breakup is a convenient tool to make all those things happen. So you can kind of hit the beats that as a reader or viewer, you're kind of just expecting just latently. Like most people aren't kind of analyzing why they think that should happen. It's just that like if you didn't have that part in it, you'd be like, huh, something's missing. Like when beats don't get hit, like there's often a sense of like incompleteness. And so in the third act, I think it's the way you earn your however you have this thing happen to earn the happy ending.
I think the reader, if we're talking about a romance novel, I think the reader feels that separation as well, in a way
For
that
sure.
maybe they haven't been able to feel the emotions as strongly in the novel. I think you're sort of suffering with the characters when you read that. So I think obviously one of the big points about a third act breakup is to for a reader or to feel that angst. But then I also think there is a lot about a breakup that makes people or that makes characters really look within themselves, and then they get to the point where the happily ever after feels earned, won, deserved, and also feels realistic, where you feel like the characters can move forward. I always think sometimes, like, romances especially can be like such a whirlwind, and it can feel like that when you're reading a book, and sometimes it feels good to have the characters step back, take a breath, and be like, "Is this really what I want?" To me, I sometimes I like that. Like I'm not anti third act breakup, um, in any way, if it's again done well and it's done in a way that makes me think that the characters are learning something from it. And I think that that's, what a author is hoping to get out of a third act breakup is for the reader to also feel like that was well earned.
I think that if you've done a good job writing a romance, whether or not you're doing, dual point of view or one point of view, there still are two people, at least two people involved in a romance, usually. You can love yourself, that's totally fine. Um, but I do like going off of what both of you are saying, I think it comes down to this idea of like self-actualization. Just speaking from the books that I've written. So it's a hero and a heroine when I write books. And the hero and the heroine both have their own goals at the beginning of the story. And those goals are usually in opposition of each other. And that's where you get the tension in the romance. And I think that third act breakup allows them to self-actualize to the point where they figure out what they truly want separate from each other. Like you can want that person, but you have to know what is best for you, and you have to have your own personal growth before you can have that, like you're saying, like the well-earned happily ever after. I'm not going to spoil it, but I just watched a J drama called First Love. We've like talked about Gavin recommending us like all the J dramas to watch, and he recommended this one to me. And he and I were talking afterwards about the third act breakup, and there is a third act breakup, and it's maddening, but it's also necessary because
Yeah.
the hero and the heroine both had to separate to be able to grow to be the people they needed to be for each other in the end. So I am a fan of it. I'm not saying it's always necessary, but when it's done well, I think it's definitely a great thing, a great part of the story for me.
Yeah, and so do we write third act breakups? Is that
I
part
sure
of our
have.
yeah, is that part of our
Yeah,
repertoire?
I I don't y- I don't know. I can't. This is so bad. I can't remember back to like my first books whether or not I did, but I'm pretty sure in all of my cowboy books I've done it. Pretty sure I did it. I love you like it's 1999. There's a third act breakup. Just letting y'all know.
I So I remember my first book I ever wrote, I had a third act breakup, but it was so minor and so it was very mild. And my editor made me change it. And she made me add kind of this like miscommunication trope. I still hate it. I'm mad that I changed it. I dislike it immensely looking back because the heroine kind of internalizes something without talking it through with the hero, and it's like that's like my least favorite thing. So I'm still kind of mad about it. In my alien books I never write it. They have separations sometimes, or when I say never, it might have happened once or twice, but I've written like 25 alien books, so clearly it hasn't happened much. So I often will give them a separation. That's like external forces, like someone gets kidnapped or whatever by evil aliens. But part of that separation is forces them to come to terms with whatever internal conflict that they've been having. So I use the separation as my breakup.
I think that works though. Like, I think that's
I think it does
I think it's
too.
like it's like a third act conflict instead of like an actual breakup.
It's a
And I
third
think
act
that
conflict.
works. Yeah.
And I've kind of said this before. One of my favorite authors still is Kristen Ashley, and one thing she often does, not all the time, but a lot of her what's what she does in the third act. The Usually throughout the book, the characters are kind of like will they, won't they? They have like fights, but a lot of times, in place of the third act breakup, is a massive external force that rips them apart. And then they're like racing to get back to each other somehow, or she had a character who's buried alive. And it was the book was called Breathe. And so he was like racing to get to her before she like ran out of breath. I mean, that was like the big like separation where he also had to come to terms with like there was some internal stuff he was working on. She always manages to weave it very well together. But so like separation, I actually really like separations. um I don't love like breakups where they're like hurting each other. That's usually where sometimes the a show or a book will lose me.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it. I think it's just like I don't have a strong feeling for or against. I think that like the first book I ever wrote and published is part of like an interconnected trilogy, but in the first book there is a third act breakup that I think is like kind of ham-fisted, and I've gotten the rights back to it. We've talked about this because of the
Covers.
cover issue, and which is to say I haven't
Have
like
heard nothing.
yeah. Anyway, so it when I eventually republish that, I will tweak that because I think it's a little ham-fisted for me. Like I was just trying to I was learning, didn't know what to do. And I think it was like okay. I mean, I understand what I was trying to do. I just would do it more elegantly. I think breakups happen and they're natural and they're part of relationships, and people, and there's all sorts of reasons why it happens. I just feel like they can happen like a little less farcically, and I would like to like think that like I would like to get better at doing it less farcically. What I tend to do now is more a crisis of self in some way. I mean, I guess I wouldn't even consider Puck and Prejudice having a third act breakup.
I
I'd
don't think
say
so.
that it's more circumstantial, and so there's a breaking of they separate, but I wouldn't consider it necessarily a breakup. And in the book I have coming out in December, I also don't really do a breakup, so to say. I would say that like it become what I'm more attracted to doing now is more of a internal grappling of like something happens and the sense of self gets challenged so you can move through and earn that happy ending, but it doesn't necessarily come from them in opposition, although it can add to friction in their dynamic. Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
that we were kind of alluding to with Kristen Ashley too, is like there's definitely things aren't just like a bed of roses, but they're not looking to end the relationship, but there's some sort of like um
Tension.
tension, like I don't want to give away like the whole plot of a book, but I mean like look, whatever. Is like, in this case there's like a parent, like losing a parent. and what did that parent represent in that person's life, and then how does that impact their sense of self, and then they have to work through that as a couple.
Which we see actually that in K-dramas a lot.
Yes, we
Loss
do,
of a
which is
parent
Yeah.
is a oh my god, that's the cause of breakup I can, like, think of too, I think off the top of my head right now, or, like, a close relative that's the cause of a major, like, separation or something.
I like it even more when it's a forced separation than it is a breakup, because I think there's even more tension in that when you want to be together but can't for whatever reason. And I like that, because I do think that there's still then that self-actualization. Like, I have a book where the hero and heroine separate at the end, not because they don't want to be together, but because she gets a career opportunity that's like been her dream that she thought was over, because she's a dancer. She thought it was over because of an injury. And then she gets this second chance at it after she has spent the summer, on his ranch with him and has fallen in love with him, and she leaves and he supports it. But then it's like, is this relationship going to survive the distance? And you see them work through what's really important before coming back together in the end. So yeah, I like it even when it's not an actual I'm breaking up with you because I don't want to be with you, but a breakup because of a separation.
Mhm.
So we're gonna get into third act breakups in K-dramas, so we're obviously gonna have to spoil some dramas. People, this is the third act. But we'll give a heads up on the dramas we're gonna talk about, but just, like, understand, play it safe. I mean, to be fair in K-dramas, the default is a third act breakup. Maybe we should have focused on maybe we should have talked about K-dramas that didn't have a third act breakup. Maybe that'll be a different podcast episode. We'll be like, let's talk about K-dramas that did not have a third act breakup, because I would say the majority do. So there's a couple reasons often for the third act breakup. I only have like 4 today. Are there more nuanced reasons? Yes, but for just the sake of discussion, we kind of are going to talk about 4. So number 1 is the good old miscommunication trope, where one character sees something or hears something, misunderstands what happened or what was said, and then the breakup happens. So yeah, how do you feel about this reason for a third act breakup? And could we think of any examples? Because we struggled here.
So we did struggle here, and I was like, yeah, I was like trying to think about it, and I was like, yeah, struggling to think of one, and then like that gets me anxious sometimes because I'm like, then I get blocked by like, why can't I think? Why can't I think? So I went to where sometimes I go to unpack my thoughts, which is Reddit, and was reading about miscommunication tropes in K drama, and just trying to refresh my memory on a miscommunication third act. And I mean, like, I feel like they contribute, like, to me, it feels like a contributing factor often. Like, I was like struggling to think of one that was like a standalone, like, this was the one thing. But I read something that I thought was interesting enough that I wanted to bring here, which is somebody on Reddit. I did not write down their name. I apologize to this person. I just didn't want to take ownership of this idea. Is that in Western shows, miscommunication is a very prevalent third reason breakup. Like, it's often, like, very commonly, it is the reason for the third act breakup. There's some sort of miscommunication. And they posited that you actually see the miscommunication trope a lot in K drama, but not so much contributing to that breakup. You often see it as part of the setup. And I thought that was a pretty astute observation that resonated for me, was that I think a lot of times, like, I was thinking of like her private life, like there's lots of dramas where
Business proposal, like,
yeah, yeah,
perfect.
Business Proposal is a great example where there's just a miss Duna, where at the beginning there's some sort of a miscommunication right out of the gate that contributes to the setup. And when I thought of that, I was like, yes, because I mean, like, that was the thing. I kept thinking of miscommunication in K dramas. I'm like, they're rife with them, but I was having a hard time thinking of like where it ended up being the sole contributor to the third act breakup in the way that we're going to unpack some of the other ways that the
Mhm.
third act breakup happened. So you can unpack that as you will or not, but it resonated for me.
I was glad that you found that, because I was doing exactly what you were doing. It was like trying to rack my brain, like literally going through our whole like show planning spreadsheet for the past 4 years and be like, which one of these has a miscommunication third act breakup? And I could not come up with one. And now that makes more sense as to
Yeah,
why.
I mean, if you guys have thought of one, let us know. Because I think there's a lot of like, we will get to noble idiocy. Like there's a lot
Totally
of like
different. Yeah.
lying kind of for a breakup.
Yes.
But the actual like miscommunication, I don't
At the
like.
end. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we just did a podcast, we just did a snack, which is available on our Patreon about Love Untangled. And there's an eavesdropping scene. And a lot of times an eavesdropping scene is what you have and that's how miscommunication happens because they eavesdrop, but they hear things wrong. But that didn't happen in that episode. She heard things right. So it's like, it's hard sometimes
Yeah.
to, yeah. Okay. So then, reason 2, external forces rip them apart. And while they still have feelings for each other, they decide they can't be together. What do you think of this one? I just want to say up front, this is my favorite. I love when two characters are so in love and everyone knows they're in love and it's great but they can't be together. And in the end, they have to like separate crying, like clinging to each other, which we'll talk about one that is similar to that. But this is my favorite. This is my bread and butter. This is what I want to write. I love it so much.
It's so angsty. And I love that. That's what I love. I love a super angsty third act breakup. And like, I don't like 3 of my top dramas do this. And I think that shows like what I love. And it is Goblin, Crash Landing on You, and The King Eternal Monarch. And if you have not seen these, just like zip your ears like for a minute because my God. And like talk about like external forces keeping them apart. Crash Landing on You, it's because one's from North Korea and one's from South Korea. Like they literally cannot be in the same country. In Goblin, like really seriously, cover your ears if you don't know. In Goblin, it's fucking death. It is death. She like talk about noble idiocy. She chooses to die, rather because in her dying, she's saving children from the same fate. And she knows that death is coming for her. It's been coming for her the entire drama. So it's death, even though he does then, wait for her to reincarnate for 20 years. So that's a 20-year third act breakup. And then the King Eternal Monarch, it's parallel universes. Like they literally don't live in the same world. I love that. Those are all such high stakes third act separations where the characters do not want to separate, but they have zero choice because of the worlds that they live in or because they don't live at all.
The angst of couples who love each other fighting to get back together is my favorite. It happens in Love Between Fairy and Devil as well.
God, yes.
Actually, it happens like 3 times in Love Between Fairy and Devil. I mean, it happens numerous times, but that idea that they're fighting to get back to each other, it gets me every
so
time.
good.
Yeah, so that is probably always what I'm going to choose. It's always my favorite. Okay, and then we have reason 3. Internal conflict becomes too much for one character or another. I would say an example of this is like a character's lack of self-worth leads them to believe they can never be loved. So they're like, oh, we must break up. I don't deserve you. That kind
This
of
is what
type.
I do this.
I know this is Leah. This is Leah's bread and butter. So yeah, what kind of K-dramas do you think? Can you think of with this reason?
I don't need to talk in this one. I talked in the last one.
Okay, I can bring up one because I think this one is a pretty. I mean, this one actually has
a textbook example of this.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some external conflict here, but just between lovers. So just between lovers is about 2 victims of like a department store collapse who, when they were like teenagers, were essentially trapped in the collapsed building for a while together. The heroine she's basically blocked this out. So she like does not remember being there. But the hero does. He remembers being there. He remembers her. And so Gongdu, love Gongdu, played by Lee Jun-ho. So he remembers it. And the third act breakup is basically the heroine, Moon Soo, once she actually realizes what happened, blames herself, because part of what happens in the drama as well is that she was there to meet a boy, okay? And it was her idea to meet at this like department store in this like ice cream shop, okay? And the boy dies.
Well, she's also supposed to be watching her sister.
She's also supposed to be correct. Forgot about that. Thank you. Also
Her
supposed to
sister
be watching
dies.
her sister. So her sister dies. This boy dies. And she's basically just blocked out this traumatic event. And in the end, she completely blames herself. She also is so guilt-ridden over the fact that she doesn't remember, and Lee Jun-ho or Gong-do this whole time has remembered. So she sees that he's been like living with this like absolute trauma, and she hasn't. And she basically pulls away. And I know some people don't like this drama, but like, have you been in a department store collapse? Like, give these people some grace. Like, oh my God, they've been
I
through
love
hell.
this drama. Love it.
Yeah, I love this drama too. And so basically she pulls back and she's like, no, I ruin everything I touch. I don't want to ruin your life. Like I can't, like, basically she completely retreats. She does, as what Gwen Hayes would say, she does the classic like shields up, like completely retreat from love, shields up. I think she's scared to let anyone get close to her again. And they have a third act breakup. Of course, Gongdu is like gonna battle whatever he's got. Whatever. What did they give him at the end?
Liver cancer.
Liver cancer. Jesus, yeah. They
Third
didn't
act
need to
liver
do that.
Third act liver cancer.
Third act liver cancer. Yeah,
Totally
they didn't need to do
against it. I'm totally against it.
But the internal forces that ripped them apart in that drama made absolute sense to me. And he was still grappling with trauma too.
Mhm.
And to the point that he understood her. Like, he didn't blame her for this like breakup, really. And yeah, I thought it was a really good example of one.
Yeah, I think that that's a good one. I think that My Liberation Notes has this happen in it. I think there's a lot of like, it fits well. I think you're going to see this pop up a lot in kind of like a quieter drama with more internalized conflict, because they're grappling with self a lot of times. And so that's where this kind of fits in neatly. But we saved the most common and most maligned for last.
K-dramas love this. So reason number 4, at least that we're going to talk about tonight, again, I'm sure there's others, but this is what we're getting to tonight, is noble idiocy. So what is noble idiocy? Basically, it's when one character sacrifices their happiness because they believe this will result in the happiness of someone else. So I did like a really terrible example, but I was trying to give one. So like, say in a romance novel, an example would be that a hero sells his entire farm, donates all the money to his like beloved sick granny, and then has to break up with her, his beloved, and move away to a job across the country. And he does all this without consulting his beloved to even ask her if that's what she wants. That's classic romance novel, I guess, but I would say that's a very K-drama-ish type of noble idiocy. So I just think K-dramas they eat this up. And it is a topic debated constantly on our social media platforms and in our Patreon. Like, noble idiocy is a hot topic, okay? So
I mean, we have a
let's chat
phrase.
about
We have a phrase for noble idiocy now, for bad noble idiocy.
because they go to Argon.
Right? Did it go to Argon? Yeah.
So here's the thing that like gets me with it, because it's 9 times out of 10 it's the man doing the noble idiocy. And it's him breaking up with the female lead because there's something that he believes is going to hurt her. So it could be that it's like a family member. It could be, yeah, like a life choice, some circumstance of his that he thinks could hurt her. Or honestly, to me, even worse could be like some sort of like health diagnosis, like that he thinks will protect the heroine. And so they're presented in this way that like, aren't they so like, it's presented as a good, like, aren't you seeing this hero being so noble, so self-sacrificing that they are going to do this, when it honestly comes across patronizing and infantilizing of the female lead. Like, why
Mhm.
can't you have this conversation? Like, why? Like, if this, and that's what I think it is like we're meant to see in this whatever happens in this crisis point that this breakup is meant to be like taking us to, is we're meant to see something that's going to make us earn the happy ending that's going to feel satisfying. So we need to see something earned. They do something, but when the earn is this, it doesn't feel often satisfying, at least to me. It feels like I get distracted by, yeah, being like, why? And this is where, like, again, maybe you could say that there's some of that miscommunication trope that ends up in noble idiocy, but noble idiocy feels like its own thing. And to me, it really does feel very rooted in this patronizing and lack of respect towards the female heroine, because like you couldn't, if this is meant to be what ultimately we're rooting for at the end is like your life partner, and that we believe this is going to be like a happy, healthy ending, and you couldn't like talk about whatever, like
Yeah, you couldn't consult her with for something that greatly affects her.
Right.
I actually
or
You're making the
involve her in the
decision for
choice.
her.
Yeah, you're
Yes, you
making the decision for her, which is always so frustrating to me. I've actually done this a few times in my alien books where I've had kind of like my male alien who like tries to do something, some sort of noble idiocy. And I've done this numerous times because I enjoy writing it, where I have the heroine call him on the carpet about it, where she's like, no, this is not, how is that going to make me happy? Like, how is that helping me out? What is that going to do for me? Because that's not doing anything. You sacrificing yourself on this like noble pillar isn't doing anything for me, and I really enjoy writing it. And I think maybe because some K dramas have made me angry. Yeah. So I guess there's two things because I do think there's been some noble idiocy in K dramas, or something that I would consider noble idiocy that I've actually been on board with.
Same.
Um, but well, which do we want to talk about first? The good or the bad?
where do we end on good?
Okay, so let's talk about noble idiocy in K-dramas that have made us just rage.
I I don't I don't wanna belabor When the Phone Rings, but I feel like that's the ragiest one that I have. Um, because there was absolutely 0 communication with the heroine. And this is a situation where the hero feels unworthy of her, and he is. He is unworthy of her. He doesn't know what he does at the end does not make him worthy of her. Like, if you have not watched When the Phone Rings, all you need to know is that the hero and the heroine are married, but it's an arranged marriage. She thinks he hates her, but for reasons he's kept his walls up to keep her safe because of his past, and rightfully so in the beginning. Um, but we've also talked about it a million times. The heroine for much of the drama is has selective mutism, so she speaks with sign language, um, and he never learns it, and the whole time that he's with her, and if his noble idiocy would have been like going off to a sign language school and learning sign language for her,
Amazing.
maybe. But what he did was go off to basically insert himself into guerrilla warfare in a fake war-torn country. And I don't know how he did set up a school for the deaf in this war-torn country in the middle of the war, which also made no sense. Um, so yeah, when you have when your noble idiocy is like truly idiotic, which I mean, I we've talked about this before as well. I'm trying not to be mean about it, and I don't want to make people feel bad about it who like this drama. But the logic to me just doesn't add up here, which is why I will always use this as an example for the noble idiocy that I like the
Well,
least.
here's the thing about When the Phone Rings, though. The entire drama is noble idiocy. He never communicates properly with her. He never tells her why he's marrying her. That a quote, it's to quote, protect her. Like looking back, I'm sorry, I rage about this drama.
I
But
know, but
looking,
you're right. You're right.
I'm
The
just
entire
saying,
drama.
looking back, the entire thing is noble idiocy. And then we can move on from unless Leah wants to say something, but we can move
I'm
on.
just surprised that uncontrollably fond did not come up.
I
Yeah.
just don't want to talk about that drama. Well, because I didn't hate Uncontrollably Fond. Like, that's the thing. Like, the ending, and we've talked about endings before. Like, the ending of a drama can make can ruin a drama for you and it cannot. And yes, there were decisions that Kim Woo Bin's character makes uncontrollably fond about, like disclosing his his mortal illness to the love interest. I just love him so much that I was able to forgive a lot of that, even though I hated it. Um, and that drama brought me to like sobbing, heaving tears. And so I felt something in that drama that was like real, like deep emotion. Whereas when the phone rings just made me fucking angry.
Yeah. I mean, like, what's wrong with Secretary Kim? Like, there's so many. They're just like they're always around. But like, I'm thinking of What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, which has been a long time. You know, that drama's been around for a long time. But I'm bringing it up just because I think a lot of people have watched it. Is like that's another example where we have like the hero chooses not to fully disclose his traumas, and they could have couched it more in like an internal struggle and maybe like unpacked it more believably, but in some ways it's meant to be like kind of to like protect her from damage, just like he's also shielding her from like his
Her
family.
memories. Yeah.
Yeah, her memories. Oh my god. Yeah, like all of that kind of stuff. And so it takes away all of her autonomy because he's just assuming he knows what's best for her. And so again, because he's assuming all that burden, then we are being denied this ability to see a healthy relationship having like good foundation.
I have a few. I really do want to talk about. I'm sorry. The first one is My Lovely Liar, and this is regarding the second male lead. So the second male lead, which
Well, this is a good one.
Amy
This
and
is
I
a good
love
one.
him, and I'm gonna spoil what happens with the second male lead. So she thinks that he's cheating on her and they break up. So like that's what you think for most of the drama, that she broke up with her ex-boyfriend because he essentially lied. He would like lie about where he'd been. So she's like, "Oh, he's cheating on me." So miscommunication trope right there for the second male lead. But then you find out, I'll never be over this. He was
No.
diagnosed with stomach cancer. And instead of telling her, he was like, "Yes, I've been lying to you about where I am," doesn't clear up the fact that he hasn't been cheating. He has stomach cancer, but he doesn't tell her because he doesn't want to burden her. And I realize that this is a culture thing, but this drove me up the fucking wall because he really loved her and she
And
loved
he's
him.
such a good character.
He's such a good dude. There's this whole montage about how great their relationship was. Like they were selling this second male lead hard to us. Okay. There's this whole montage about how great he was. And then you find out he like suffered alone. Like, I just don't, I never understand that. Like, why are you not how is that respecting her in any way? How is that not,
I know there's another drama that we have not watched, so I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's one that like people in the Patreon have talked about and like they've hated, and it's like Noble Idiocy with cancer at the end. Like
Oh, De La Souls or De
so,
La La,
wait,
whatever.
doesn't he fake
we're
I
like
thought
yes, well no, she thinks he's dead.
that's it. He fakes it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I know people went like off the rails. And then I'm going to lump two together because I'm going to talk about Mr. Plankton and I'm going to talk about Tempted, both by Udo Wan. The thing is, I do need to say about Mr. Plankton, even though this made me rage, I still love that drama. I'm on record of loving that drama. I understood why Udo Wan's character was like doing a lot of this, but still. So in both of those, I don't like when the male character is verbally mean to the female lead in order to quote save her from someone. So he's like, "I need to be mean to you. I need to do it in front of people because they need to know, because they're the ones who are going to hurt her." So in Tempted, again, it's Cruel Intentions. So if you remember Cruel Intentions, the movie, Ryan Felipe, he is mean to Reese Witherspoon on purpose because he doesn't want to draw the ire of his like crazy stepsister. Okay. Very similar in Tempted. So Moon Ga Young is like, she is out to get Joy, who plays the female lead. And Udo Wan has to be so mean to her in a large group of people. And it hurt. Like, I'm like, why? Or tell her ahead of time. Be like, I gotta be really, like, at least give her a heads up. But he's just like, no, I gotta push you away completely. You get away from me. I'm toxic. And it's like, you probably are toxic.
And he does mean so well.
Udo does mean so well. So he has to do it in Mr. Plankton also several times because
Ugh.
he's dying. And he's
Not
trying
a
to push her
spoiler.
away.
He's dying from the first minute of the
Yeah,
The
he's
first
just
second you see him in the snow.
he's always
Yeah.
dying. He's always dying. So, but he's so mean to her in order to like push her away more than once, and it's so hard. But you also see how badly he's hurting
Oh
himself
God.
every time he
Yes.
does it. So when I say it makes me rage, I mean it. It made me just like so angst ridden, watching both of those. But I would say the stomach cancer one is the one that like pissed me off.
Yeah.
Whereas Tempted and Mr. Plankton, I was just like, I wish it didn't have to be this way. Like I just wish this wasn't. But I also
Yes.
get it, you know.
No, I
But that
think it's something when it deals with like terminal illness stuff, like that's also when you're like as a reader or viewer, I'm being manipulated. Like not only are you manipulating like the heroine and like patronizing, like you're also manipulating us and like
because
our
we know
emotions.
we're in on it. We're like part of it, and it feels horrible.
Icky.
Okay, is there any more that you feel that you need to get off your chest as of now before we move into the good ones?
I mean, even good though, like my good that I'm going to talk about is still a tough one.
Well, right, right.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
do it.
yeah, me too. Okay, so yeah, are there dramas with noble idiocy that made you almost like it, or that you sort of understood that you were like, okay, I'll accept this noble idiocy only?
Yeah, I'm going back to Crash Landing on You, and I think Crash Landing on You has multiple noble idiocies, but I'm talking about one towards the end. So, if you have not watched the Gateway drama, I don't know how you're listening to our podcast if you haven't watched Crash Landing on You, but I'm going to spoil a big part of the ending of Crash Landing on You. So, um, I mean, he gets shot, she gets shot, everybody gets shot. She gets shot in an act of noble idiocy. Actually, she drives her car into gunfire to save him. She's in the hospital, comes through the gunshot wound, right? So here's the noble idiocy that I'm getting to. She's in the hospital, makes it through like surgery from the gunshot wound. Um, Captain Ray, Hyun Bin's character, and all of his little ducklings have been captured. Like they know that they are North Korean, soldiers, spies, whatever South Korea thinks that they are. They've been captured by the NIS, right? Is that what it's called? Is it the NIS? Or am I making that up? Is that something?
Well, I don't know, but I know what you mean. Whatever the
Yeah.
government
CIS is like
agency.
something, is an American show. So I'm like, I know it's something.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're captured, they're being detained and questioned and stuff like that. And she asks to see him. She asks to see him. Um, I mean, they are well in love at this point. Like he has crawled through the tunnel of love to save her from the baddie. And like the whole second half of the drama is them. He's living in her house. They're falling in love. They do like partner rings and all this stuff before he gets captured and before she gets shot. And she asks to see him, and the government lets her see him. And he basically tells her it was all a lie. I've been using you to infiltrate your government. Um, this is not real. And she's crying. She's like, I know you're lying. I know why you're doing this. Like she knows that it's noble idiocy, but he will not relent. Like he will not give her the satisfaction of admitting that he's lying. And until she is just broken and walks out of the room, and then of course, like walks around the corner, collapses, because she has sepsis.
Right, because
um,
yeah.
because she has sepsis, and so she almost dies again, right? Um, and it's horrible. And she makes it through once more, comes out of her coma, and thinks that basically, like, he said these horrible things to her and then left, like, got, repatriated, back to North Korea. And her mom's like, actually, he was by your side the entire time until you came out of the coma. Like the government let him wait to
Yeah.
be, taken back to North Korea. And then of course she's like, what? Like, holy shit. They hop in a car and she chases down um the sort of like extradition at the border, like runs to him where she could get shot again. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like literally like at the DMZ.
calling his
And he's
name.
cuffed, he's handcuffed, and she's screaming for him. Oh, it's horrible, but amazing. Like the emotions that you go through, like the ups and downs. Um, it's noble idiocy, but it was, I think, one of the best noble idiocies.
Well, also it makes sense. He's like trying not to get her arrested. He's like, what if the
Yes.
South Korean government thinks that like she colluded with me? Like in all honesty, he really didn't have a choice. He had to
Everything is to
essentially,
protect her. Everything is to protect her,
yeah,
even
he
though
kind of
he is
had to
destroying her. Yeah.
he had to kind of disavow her. I mean, he kind of really did.
Yeah, no, to me it makes sense. I think like King's Affection kind of had this for me too, where it was, they were gonna have to break up because like she had to still be the king because like it's like the gender bend, like she's pretending to be her twin brother, and so there's an element of that there. Like I think to me there's a time where if you can, but I think it's like you're sacrificing yourself, and there's like a logic reason that's like even
Yes.
if
It's painful, but it's
it's painful, there's a logic to it, and it feels like it hits different if it's just not purely patronizing, like, I couldn't tell
yes.
you the truth of something because I didn't wanna hurt you, but it's like our circumstances are, like, geopolitical in
Yes.
nature,
Yes.
and so I do have to kind of sacrifice because, like, there's an element of external that's balanced there as well,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And I think that if you can get that, then there is an element of that self-sacrifice then does feed into, like, the drama of it in a way that feels compelling.
Yeah. I mean, you can't make me not love Captain Ri Jong-hyuk. You cannot.
Yeah. My example was Duna because I think that the reason and also this is noble idiocy on the heroine's part. So this is Bae
Yeah,
Suzy.
this is a fun one because we don't usually see that.
Yeah, and so Bae Suzy is like she's an idol who's kind of taking a break, and she meets this man and they fall in love. But she's been struggling with mental health the whole time. I mean, the K-pop industry has really broken her. Um, and she is coaxed back into the industry by, a really wicked manager. And he does threaten her. Like he says, like, you must break contact with this man. I'll ruin his life. And that can, like, I fully believe that this manager would
Mhm.
absolutely ruin his life, and she knows it too. And I think it's also real because she's been so broken by the press, and the industry that she doesn't want that to happen to him. Like she feels it. She knows what it feels like. And she's like, I cannot let this happen to him. He's just this like pure like college student that I met. I don't want to ruin his life, even if we had like the best kiss scene of all time over ice cubes. And so she completely cuts ties with him because she doesn't want him calling her. Because if they find out that he's trying to contact her, they could ruin his life. And it is harsh, but to a degree, like I understood why she couldn't be like, well, let's sit down and talk about this. No, she had to be like, hard stop. Hard stop. This will ruin your life. I'm out of it.
Because she
And
still wanted her career too, which I
yeah,
think
she did.
like and I love that, like showing a woman like choosing herself, but also choosing him in a way that she could take care of him
Yeah, like I
by by
and
by cutting him out.
right, and of course, there's opinions about the ending of Duna. I think the three of us believe that
It's happy.
they what?
It's happy.
Yeah,
It's
we
a happy
believe
ending.
that in the end they're making it work, but they're doing it in a way that's going to protect each other. And also I bet they probably waited until he was a little bit older and out of school and stuff like that. But I just did not mind that breakup. I thought it made sense even though it made me cry. I mean, I think they were like in the subway when she's breaking
Yes.
up with him and she's so harsh about it and he's just like crying. I mean, it's so rough. It's so so rough. Um but I thought it made sense. I thought it was a good one. Um the other example I thought of was No Gain, No Love. So Leah didn't watch this one, right? This was just
Mhm.
you.
I did
Yeah.
No.
not.
Yeah.
So I remember the breakup was basically the hero had promised the heroine that he'd promised her mother that he'd essentially like take care of her or watch out for her. And so the heroine ended up kind of really resenting that promise because she didn't want the hero to feel like obligated just because he made a promise to her mother. So when her mother died, she was like, okay, we're gonna end this because I need you
You're
to
free
like,
now. Yeah.
you're free now, because he had essentially lived like so much of his life like really being attached to her, even if she didn't know it. That like promise had been stuck in his head. He had done so much for her without her realizing it. And I actually kind of like that one. I think I'm on the podcast. Like, I think I'm on the record as saying that I like that separation. I thought it was necessary. The hero is like went abroad. He with like without that weight of promise, because this was like a mom to him, so there was like a filial duty that he had felt, and
They
so
were
when that
also a
was
marriage of convenience too.
yeah,
So like, she never knew how he really felt. And
right.
so
So when that was like lifted off his shoulders and he was given time to be himself, and then he came back on his own to be like, no, like I want to be with you, this is what I want, and I had time to think about it, and I had time to be myself, and I no longer feel obligated, and there isn't the mantle of marriage convenience on us anymore. And I thought it was a really wonderful, because she was pretty, there was noble idiocy there to it. She wasn't like, oh, I love you, I think we need to break up. She's like, no, we're done. Like there definitely was like a
Mhm.
harsh separation that she did for him, because I think she thought he would continue to cling to her. She also had to do, that's so funny that both my examples that I liked were because the women did it.
Woman. Yep.
Imagine. Because she
When
did.
women are noble idiots, it's okay.
Well, both, I mean, Duna
No,
was just like,
they're both good examples. They
yeah,
are.
they're good examples. But yeah, so those were probably my favorites that did the trope. But man, noble idiocy is all over K-dramas. So there's a million I'm actually really excited to hear from listeners on this
Yeah.
topic.
I want to hear ones
Um
you love and ones you don't.
yeah, and if you do want us to do a podcast episode on K-dramas that don't have a third act breakup or something like that, or if there's like a spin-off topic that you want to hear about that maybe we talked about today, let us know. Because I do think we could like definitely talk about this. There's more I think we can get out of kind of this topic.
Yeah.
Because this was fun to talk about.
And I always feel like I need to be apologetic for talking on when the phone rings over and over again, because I know there are people who like it, but I just can't. It's one of the ones where I can't get behind Argan.
We
I
feel
just
how
can't.
we feel.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think for me, like where we've landed in like listening to this today is I think like if it's protection from danger or harm, I tend to land more on the sympathetic side.
Yes.
Um, and that could be danger and harm from like geopolitical state, or like you had even alluded with like Duna, like there's an element of like protecting like your pride, like you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna go back into this like pretty wild world of like idolism, and like you need to be like protected as like a regular citizen. I classify that together. Um, but when it's like a sacrifice for someone's dreams, like you should focus on your whatever without me holding you back. Like you have a bright future. I'm going to complicate it. Like your family's business is, like just whatever. Like if it's something like that, that's where I feel like you lose the agency. And then it feels to me like the romance just immediately becomes much more like as opposed to us being on a journey where at the end we're like, yay, this like all unpacked and like, haven't they been on a journey and they're in love? You're kind of like, I enjoyed the feelings I got along the way, but by the end I'm kind of like, okay, bye.
Yeah. I'm gonna think more about how I write a third act breakup now, though, that's for sure.
Me
Or
too.
how
I
I
Am
feel like I want to go
too.
right now and like do it right after you give my wags of the finger. And
Same.
I have done it wrong more than once.
oh, I know I have in some in my contemporary romance books. I know I've done a third act breakup or like a separation that I didn't. I mean, a book is never perfect. I feel like you can always be tweaking your book. So just because I publish
Yes.
something, but I definitely can like look back and be like, I wish I would have done that differently. And also because I'm a different author now than I was back then.
Right.
You know,
For sure.
every book.
We
Yeah.
learn with every book we write. Learn with every book we read, with every drama we watch. Like, and
Yeah.
talking about it now, like I'm learning stuff that I want to. I'm like already filing in the back of my head for what I'm writing now.
Right. Maybe I'll try to include noble. I'm going to try and do something one of these days with noble idiocy and see if I can pull it off. without
I
making
I
people
have
mad.
enjoyed at times playing with something that I like, so I don't like the fisheye kiss
Yeah.
or, like the falling into mouth kiss, and I put that in my book that's coming out in December. I do the falling into mouth kiss, like she trips, falls against him, and like their lips hit. And I did it because of K-drama, and I wanted to, like, just be like, what does it feel like to, like, play with some of these ideas that
Yeah.
and some of the ones I've seen that I've been, like, wagging the finger to be like, "Well, how," I still have an amnesia book in me. Like, I really do wanna do amnesia at some
Oh,
point
yeah,
just to
same.
see, like, what does
I
that
have
feel
a
like?
whole amnesia book plotted, like, and I haven't read it. Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
Let's be honest, Leah, the Cafe Minimum Dong accidental kiss did it for you, didn't it?
Just yeah, crash yeah, no
Mm.
comment. No comment.
All right. Well, that was really fun. Like I said, let us know what you think. Let us know your examples, and also let us know if you want some sort of spin-off of this topic because this was fun to talk about.
It
So
was.
that's all for tonight. We'll see you next
Thanks for
time.
listening.
Annyeong.
Annyeong.
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoon of Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoon of Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!